God bless. My name is Anthony DiBello. Today is October 17th, 2024. I am speaking to you from an undisclosed location. It's about, I'd say, 3 or 4 a.m. where I am present, and I'm going to try to speak calmly and correctly into the camera without editing. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I also have evidence of what I'm about to speak. I have to speak in a certain way so as to not apparently allege or say anything I've been criminally reprimanded for saying by a corrupt court and a person. I'll call them a person. I'm not going to say their name or whether it's a man or a woman. I'll use those woke terms of they and pronouns like that, although men are men and women are women, but it's an ungodly country we live in these days. And I'm speaking on this day because this is the remembrance of the death of my beautiful mother, Dorothy Leona Burek DiBello, who died this day, October 17, 1982 at 7 p.m. I'm wearing this hat in honor of my dad, who died on Easter Sunday, March 31st, 2024. And this hat was one of my most prized possessions. My daddy, I was a fan of the Baltimore Colts as a kid. He gave it to me when I was a young boy, so probably in my early teens, somewhere probably between 13 and 16 or 17. And I loved it. I wore it proudly and with gratitude to him and even my mom, who used to see me wear it all the time. And then at one point I gave it back to my daddy because he liked to wear hats around the house during the day where he lived. And he lived in the Northeast while I had lived and went to college down south where it was warm, but he used to always like to wear a ski cap around the house. So he wore it for many, many years. And then I asked him if I could have it back because I knew that once my dad died, that a person he knew, nameless, I'm not going to say whether it's a he or a she, would take everything he owned and was basically knew him simply for his money and to have power and control over him and in many ways use and abuse him, and directly and indirectly the same to me. So I said, Dad, can I please have that hat back because I know what's going to happen in the end, and I'll get to the rest of that story. So thankfully, with his magnanimous and generous heart, he gave it back to me, and thank God it's in my possession now. But everything else basically he ever earned or owned at the time of his death came into the control of one person, and that was the reason they were with my dad, and I'll get to that. Again, using and abusing him for decades. And I always wanted to give it back to him and say, Dad, you wear it because you like, I want you to be happy with it. You gave it to me, but I never got that chance to give it back to him. And the glasses I'm wearing because my eyes hurt, my head hurts, my spirit's troubled. I'm either extremely depressed or angry over what happened to my daddy and what's happening to me, and I don't sleep. I can't sleep properly. My eyes are just have been damaged through either a lot of tears of depression or just, I guess, a reddening and anger, and so I'm going to just wear these sunglasses while I speak. So as I was saying, my mom died this day, October 17, 1982, and for anybody who watches or hears this, I'm going to just try to be brief and punctual. But when my dad met my mom, he was just a manager at a radio station, and my mom worked at the phone company in upstate New York. She was from Rensselaer. My dad was from Mechanicville. And beautiful, loving couple. And then in the next, let's say they married in, I think, 1957. So over the next 25 years, before my mom died in 1982, at the age of 46, having been born February 11th, 1936, and my dad born November 28th, 1932, he built a family of 8 children, of which I'm the oldest. Basically only 10-year span between the 8 of them. He became a multimillionaire, self-made. He was the youngest of 6 Italian children, immigrant parents. My mom, I think the second youngest of 12, from basically immigrants from Poland. So my dad had a, established family, became a promoter, working with some of the biggest names in show business: Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley and the Colonel, Frank Sinatra, the Beatles even, Johnny Mathis, a lot of greats. Owned multiple automobiles, multiple businesses, didn't have a felonious criminal record at all, was well respected, well revered in his community, sound mind, creative and comedic and charismatic and clever, highly intelligent, great memory, just completely blessed. And as was I, being the firstborn of those parents who are the world to me, still are in their memory. So on this day, in 1982, my mom, after a battle with terminal pancreatic cancer, waited for me to go into the bathroom at 7 p.m. after being by her bedside all day. And in that minute I was gone, she let her spirit go, and she passed. And I walked back to what we called the music room in my father's house, where her bed was. She had died. She was gone. The worst day of my life. The worst day of my life. So after that death, I was vulnerable, and my dad was vulnerable to Satan, the evil one, the hater, the liar, the thief, the destroyer. So I've documented my story, and but as it relates to my dad and what's going on with me now, giving a life update since he's died on, again, March 31st, basically Holy Saturday of the Catholic faith. He was called to a hospital in an ambulance, and then within 24 hours in the hospital, basically died Easter morning, of all days, right? Easter morning, the day somebody, of the Christian and Catholic faith that he followed, died and, rose again on Easter, but not my daddy. I pray he rose to heaven. I'll speak to that. But anyway, getting back to my dad, and my vulnerability and his, within about a year, maybe year and a half, my dad went to the restaurant, Howard Johnson's, where he had an accountant. My dad had a new Cadillac he bought for himself basically every year, always was impeccably well-dressed, handsome man, and probably about 50 years old at the time. Went into this Howard Johnson's, where we both knew the waitress. Was a friend of his lifelong friend named Dino Fiacco. It was his daughter. So there was a person seated there, noticed my dad come in, wanted to meet him, and heard he was a wealthy widower, and according to my dad, this person said, "I'd like to meet that wealthy widower." So this person, Geraldine, his daughter, Dino's daughter, facilitated the meeting, and my dad said as soon as this person sat down, he could tell they started lying. They wanted to hold a Christian Bible study in my father's office, and my dad later revealed to me that that was done under false pretenses. And once this person got into my father's office, this person was married, and began the slow, meticulous, cunning, crafty process of gaslighting my dad, grooming him, deceiving, using and abusing, in many ways of abuse, mental, emotional types of things. And so my dad wanted me to meet this person once, and I said, Dad, this person looks familiar to me. So I have on home movie footage. I was filming at a frog derby. It was an event local in my dad's area for his Greenbush area news. He was the most well-known person in our town, and probably even in the adjacent town. I won't say where this person was from. My dad was from DeFriestville, and I noticed this person on video years before my mom died. It had to be probably, I don't know, maybe somewhere between 1977 and 1979, 3 years before my mom, or 5 years before my mom died. This person essentially stalking my dad. So I had it on video. I said, you could see this person from the back, and it looks like the same exact person. And I saw where this person lived, and my dad, I said, Dad, this person they came down this dilapidated stairway. They didn't have any class, kind of had a goofy laugh, just kind of laughing at everything my dad said. I'm like, and my dad was very incredibly humorous, but this person, I could tell there was something, evil about this person. I said, Dad, come on, this person is much younger than you. I won't say how much younger, but over 2 decades younger, I'll say that much. And they're probably only want to know you for your money, Dad. I mean, you're lonely, I know. You have, kids ranging from basically aged 21 to 11. They don't have a mother. I said, I understand. They're going to be misled. They don't have anybody to, my mom was the greatest mom a kid could ever have. She basically lived and died for her children. It was me first, and all the way down to the youngest one, who was born with spina bifida, had, I don't know, about 10 or 12 surgeries even before the age of basically 8, and my mom and dad did everything for their children. And then my dad met this person, and he even said to me later on that, this person who was married got into his office, and then my dad said in one of the biggest mistakes of his life, he gave this person a job. So, like, shortly thereafter, they came into being in my father's office all the time. So this person ended up immediately from the beginning of their life knowing my dad, just making money from my dad. He had a highly successful, publicly traded company. Like I said, built his life from the ground up. Wasn't handed to him. It wasn't handed to him. He worked, the hardest working man I ever knew, and did it to provide for his family. And my mom never really cared about money. She just wanted to make sure she always had enough for the kids, and was humbled by things just like my father in getting the family a new station wagon every year, or at least every few years. She just cared about her family. She never put money first. She, like my dad, grew up poor. So my dad had revealed to me that while this person was married to their spouse, that this spouse ended up dying, was a gun expert, and was shot to death. At first I was told it was a suicide. Then I was told that my dad said it was an accident. And then he said, no, the truth of the matter is it wasn't an accident, and it wasn't a suicide, because this person was a gun expert, owned 3 guns. My dad, I have him on recording, and everything I have, again, I have recordings of, or some documentation or evidence of. And this person, my dad, according to my dad, had either two rifles and one pistol, or one rifle and two pistols. But either way, this person wasn't alone when they died. Apparently, this person was with their spouse, and this spouse and the other spouse, they either got in an argument, or this person just basically alleges my dad shot the person to death, covered it up. Apparently, I can't find any information on it. Unbelievably, I scoured the internet for 3 years, at least, probably even more than that, 5 years. Looking, I can't even find an obituary on this person. Everybody else on the planet I can find an obituary on, but not this person. Can't find any information about it. But I'll get to how later my dad tried to report it to a police chief, and the police chief mocked my father about it, and disbelieved him. But anyway, so my dad said that the person, the spouse who remained alive, said that they basically did it, that they killed their spouse to clear a path, according to my dad, exactly his words, clear a path to get to my dad. And then would also later on threaten my dad with, if they wanted to get something, primarily financial, that if my dad didn't go along, he would end up the same way as this person's spouse did. My dad revealed it to me. He also revealed to me, and my dad never lied to me. And he said he even had evidence of it, and this person had confessed a couple times. But I said, Dad, you got to get on recording, but he was never able to. That this person and their sister, I can say that much, their sister actually did this to another man in California, and basically threw him out a 9th-story window. My dad was adamant about it, always revealed that to me, always was telling me about that. Not always, but in the last, within the last years of his life, he was always leaving me messages about that. So, but at the time, this person didn't reveal that to my dad, only in later years. So this person ends up, knowing my dad and making money off my dad. And, my dad realized later, acted like they really had love for my dad. Again, I'm not saying the person's name or even their gender, but my dad realized at the end of his life that this person, the only love that they had was the love of his money, and associated with that, power and control. And I'll get to that. So my dad said the next, or biggest mistake of his life next to hiring this person was having a real, I won't say to the level, but a very personal relationship with this person. Okay? So, and I knew this person was, I predicted and I prophesied. I said, Dad, you're going to lose everything to this person. They're only after you for money, and they're abusive, they're nasty, evil. Later my dad would say that this person is the devil incarnate, and I concur with that. I actually worked with somebody named Leslie Van Houten, who was a disciple, if you will, of Charles Manson. And Leslie is like a saint next to this person. Nice woman, Leslie, but I know people don't believe that, thankfully. She was recently paroled after over 5 decades, basically in prison. But had paid her sentence, and I know she was also a victim of a cult, much like my dad would become a victim in a cult-like control of this person. And that happens where there's a lot of abuse. You become, it's like being in a cult, and then they control everything, and I'll get to how that happened. To exemplify the evil incarnate in this person and the power and control that they wanted and how they were using and abusing, I went up to my dad's house, and this person was there, and heard me ask my dad to borrow, one of his vehicles, and he said, "Sure, take the keys to the red pickup truck. They're right there on the kitchen table." I said, "All right, thanks, Dad. God bless. Love you. Love you, son." Aurelius, he used to call me. My mom used to call me Stretch. My favorite nicknames ever, Stretch and Aurelius. So I took the keys. I went down to this area on a expansive property called the Apple Tree, where he had an apple tree next to the corral where the horses were, and where we'd play football and throw through the tire on the tree, and just pick the apples and either eat them ourselves or throw them to the horses. Or anyway, so I went down there. There were 2 red trucks, a nice one that was on a side business my dad had for a company called Backyard Barns, where I worked with him. And then this dilapidated red one. I never saw the red one before, but my dad was always getting new vehicles. He bought all his children vehicles. He was always getting vehicles for his work. So I said, oh, there must be a reason he asked me to borrow that one. So I borrowed that truck. I took it out. I came back the next morning, and on my way back, I called. Before I left, I said, Dad, I'm bringing the truck back. Thank you for letting me borrow it. And apparently, this person was hanging around my dad. They picked up the phone and eavesdropped, which they were often prone to do. They always eavesdropped, censored my father's emails, was always, having to control every situation and, do everything so that they could profit. And so as I'm nearing our home, police pull me over. Now, this was the day before they took body camera footage, and as I've told the story before, and I'll be brief, they put guns to my forehead, threatened me, mocked me, said, they flinch, you die, we want to kill you. 2 cops. One was named Edward Mayano, who was a bully, tough guy in the town. He was a junior, good friends with my father's second-born son. And then this other one, nicknamed Haraskins. His name was Haskins, but his nickname Haraskins because he was always harassing people. And I wasn't the only one who named him that, but he always was harassing me, pulling me over, and just, always just for license issues, just license issues usually, like driving on a suspended or something, or license, or whatever the case was, or vote revoked, which I, sometimes did, and I admit and took accountability for. But anyway, they wanted to, they were threatening me, pointing the guns at my forehead, laughing. I said, why am I being arrested? And they said, well, this person who knows your father, with your father at the time, I borrowed the truck, called in to report that Mark DiBello had stolen a truck and to be on the lookout for him as the driver. I'm talking about stealing a truck. They were right there. I didn't steal any truck. I was shocked. So I get hauled off to East Greenbush County Jail, or down where I went to grade school, the Clinton Heights School off of Route 9 and 20 in East Greenbush, New York. And the chief of police, who knew my dad and knew our family and knew me, said, you don't steal, you're not a thief, you didn't steal. I said, I know, but this person reported it, they said, and they said, well, you can either call your dad and get out of it, or we got to throw you in jail. I said, well, what happens if I call my dad? And they said, well, first he'll find out what's going on. And I just couldn't tell my daddy. I didn't want to break his heart. This person was, he thought he was in love with this person, that this person was, like really treating my dad well, but that's not something you don't call up and have somebody falsely arrested. And the other thing is that the arrest would appear in the police blotter, which is a very popular section with police reports in my father's paper, the Greenbush Area News. And I didn't want to defame our family name. So I said, you guys figure it out, and they threw me in jail there for, hours at the local, station. I said, because I didn't steal any truck. My dad gave me permission. I didn't steal any truck. But I wasn't shocked in the sense that this person would do that. This person, like I said, I could already tell was a user and abuser and evil, and just wanted, I guess, I don't know what they wanted. I guess power and control, because after being in that jail for half or a full day, they put me in a county jail for 6 days, and I was just released. I don't know how or why. I told the story, I guess maybe in court, I don't know. Went back to my dad's office where I worked. He's like, where you been, son? Aurelius, you've been gone. I didn't have the heart to tell my dad, so I never told him. I said, well, I'll do the godly thing, the Christian thing at the time. I said, I didn't want to break my daddy's heart. I didn't want to defame his family name. I said, I won't say anything. I said, I'll just, I know I did the honorable thing. I went to jail because, I'm just trying to protect my dad's name and didn't want to, break his heart. So I'd asked the person that had me falsely arrested, why did you do it? And this person used the F word and said, because you and your dad need to know I'm in control. I'm the boss. I own everything. This is the way it's going to be. You need to know so you don't get out of line. Again, I'm the boss now. I'm gonna own all this one day. You're gonna see, not you or your dad, not anybody. So I had just warned my dad. I said, Dad, you're gonna lose it all. I mean, this person is just 100% evil. And later he would agree, also calling them the devil incarnate. But so it went that way for decades. My father was with this person. He began losing everything: his house, first he lost his company. This person working with him or for him and was there, but And I've used this example before. My dad's finances started like this person had this much money, my dad this much. And if you work with somebody, I'll just say work with, or you have a personal relationship with somebody, usually your finances go up together. You improve. Two heads are better than one, so to speak. Like he did with my mom. Like they both started with nothing, and together they built an empire. But in this relationship, my dad's money was up here, this person's was down here, and the money went like this. Like my dad started losing, and this person just kept profiting and profiting. Also, in the relationship, the way this person treated my father, when my dad had this much money, this person acted and seemed to act like they really loved my father and cared about my dad and treated him this well. But the lower my father's money went, the lower this person's treatment went. Just like, the higher this person's money went, their income, again, the worse the treatment of my father got. So over the decades, this person had me, falsely arrested, falsely accused, tried to have me arrested at least 3 or 4 times. I have evidence of it, instances of it. It worked once. This person, my father wanted to write his autobiography. I said, Pop, I'll help you write it. And I said, I'm blessed like you. I'm just like you. I'm a good writer. I said, I'll even write the review. He said, well, this person, working with me on this book, his autobiography, wants to, have a professional Jewish company. My father's Christian, Catholic. I'm like, Dad, you want to keep, you don't want to ask a Jewish person. Your story has a lot in it about God. But this person that helped my dad, didn't really help, just kind of, organized notes and did whatnot, insisted on getting $1,000 to pay this company called Kirkus Reviews. And I said, Pop, I'll do it for $500 and I'll my 10 times better review. And I had needed money at the time. I was basically homeless, living in Los Angeles. We had all gotten kicked out of my father's home by the time this person had, known my father, all the children, and then this person moved their children, brought their children into my father's house, and they got in my father's house. They changed locks on the door. My father infuriated. He was like, they don't respect me. It's my house. He goes, I don't, he told them not to, and they changed locks on the door so they could just kind of control even where they stayed. In the house, they did drugs in my father's house. We never did drugs in my dad's house, in our family home. But these persons did, these 4 people. But my dad, he was basically, again, thought this person really, the person he was with, the same age, not the same age, the person he was with, had a personal relationship with, he thought this person really, loved him. But slowly, as the years go by, he realized that wasn't the case. It was just this love of money and having power and control, and really kind of isolating my father and putting him in this cult-like situation of knowing him, and that's what happens in cases of abuse. You see, it's a cult. It's like being in a cult. And then started working on his mind again, gaslighting him and brainwashing him in a form of abuse called perspecticide. It's where you control everything in the person's life, So having said that, my father had to battle through 30 years of just always spending money on this person. This person, after my father's company went bankrupt, this person even helped, supposedly, I don't want to say helped, but was right by my father's side when he started a business called Bingo City in East Greenbush, New York, which everybody in his life was involved with, except basically his brother-in-law Ted, the chief of police in the city of North Greenbush. He had childhood friends of my brothers and him and my brother and a couple of my father's daughters, and his second-born son is the person I, was calling brother, but he's not really a brother anymore. I'll get to that. So anyway, having said that, he asked me to be a part of it. I said, Dad, no, because everything that this person is involved with causes a problem. You lose money or you get in trouble, and this person only makes money and then still treats people like, terribly. I mean, they're evil. So I just said, no, my father was in fear. I said, no, Dad, I'm going to go into ministry, because around the time, I became clean and sober, had an exorcism experience with a renowned priest, because I was just slowly suicidal after the loss of my mom for 10 years, and I knew I couldn't keep drinking and and doing drugs and things to that effect. So thank God, to this day, I haven't had anything. Been totally clean and sober since March 31st, 3rd, 1991. So having said that, I said, Dad, no, I'm just going to get into ministry. And he was upset. I understand why, because I was his firstborn son. He wanted me involved. But I said, Dad, this person will also destroy this business. So sure enough, after being falsely charged by the Attorney General, who was out, I guess, according to my dad, partially for political reasons, but the other part was, according to my dad, he had to protect one person, like in the organization. Now, the one person is the only one, the one he protected is the only one who didn't suffer any charges or any ramifications or wasn't indicted. Everybody else was in some way. And my dad ended up getting the only felony he's ever had on his record, and as he told me, confided in me while he was alive, he did it to protect this one person who was, a close, worked closely with him, and apparently did somehow did something to screw this whole thing up or embezzle money, or he alleged, and again, he didn't want to reveal it all. I know mostly because he was ashamed that he let this person get away with this, and he ended up protecting him, and later this person is just, again, using and abusing my dad for money. So anyway, having said that, Bingo City collapses. My dad gets his only felony, didn't have to do any jail time. His second-born son had a problem. He basically took his business and career out of New York. Some of the daughters had a couple problems. I didn't, because of course I was smart enough not to be involved. But those kind of things would always just happen with any kind of business that my dad started. He was always entrepreneurial, but nothing with this person he knew, this person I'm talking about, he got involved with, turned out to be profitable. Always just caused him profitable. Always cost him money, and this person ended up making money. So his house, he'd have to divide that up. He started selling off parcels of his property, and he wasn't buying anything new. He just kept losing stuff. This money all went to his knowing this one person. And so, then he'd have to divide up his house, even my family room, my bedrooms, the bedroom I grew up, the bedroom of his children, before this person brought their children into the house. Had to rent those out to people. And eventually this person wanted to sell the family house, our home, my dad's home, because my dad had to take care of the house. He was getting older, and this person just said they wanted money and they wanted to move closer, to where their 4 children were, and had nothing really to do with my dad. They just wanted, this person just wanted the money. Having said that, my dad loses his home, and, and all the while this person is, like I said, trying to, just was still, evil-minded, using and abusing, and moved my dad. This person convinced my dad, not to convince, but in a way controlled the narrative and, his life, that made him move. So my dad moved. He hated where he lived in East Greenbush, New York. And then all these things, this abuse became worse and worse. And my dad reported it to me, and I said, Dad, I'll help you. I love you with all my heart. I'll do anything I can to help you. He said, well, I'm afraid we got to have recordings. My dad said, well, I'm afraid this person's going to murder me one night. I know they're only they only know me for my money. They're abusive. They use the F word, bad words. And he reported it to the police chief in North Greenbush. Now, this person, the police chief, in East Greenbush, you remember I mentioned this guy, Maiano, this police guy who was a bully, and this other kid, Haraskins, who eventually got fired from the force. The police chief is this guy, Maiano's wife. And my dad reported it to the wife, to the police chief, and the police chief basically mocked my dad and said, oh, no. And the person who knew my dad kept saying, no, Tony is, he's like not mentally together. He makes these things up. He's got Alzheimer's. He forgets things. He doesn't know what's going on. He has dementia. My dad never had Alzheimer's or dementia. He never had. He was brainwashed. He was groomed. He never had, he was telling me stories from 76, 70 years before, more than that, 75 years. At the time, he passed when he was age 91. He was telling me stories from when he was 12 years old. He remembered like that. He knew what he had for breakfast that morning. And from things that happened 75 years earlier. He had Alzheimer's. This person was always trying to prove that he had Alzheimer's and dementia so that they could control him. Even at one point, my dad said this person took my dad to the doctors and tried to sneak in a tape recorder in this person's bag, or in a bag, to get the doctor to say my dad had Alzheimer's and dementia, because that helped, this person's narrative. They just wanted like a deadhead ATM machine. They didn't want anybody to have they wanted to cultishly control this person. That's what they do. So anyway, having said that, this person, moves, my dad moves to East Greenbush. She tries to report this, that this person murdered their spouse. The police chief says, well, here's what it will do. I'm not going to do anything about it. You have to leave town. Basically, like my dad was causing a problem for some reason, trying to report this crime, and he was afraid for his life, knowing this person. The abuse apparently started to become physical. I have, videos and audio recordings, and I overheard actually 6 times, what they call butt dialing. My dad butt dialed me like 6 times. And I heard this person verbally abusing my dad, threatening my dad, hitting my dad. My dad sent me recordings of it, but nobody believed my dad. So I started to tell people, nobody believed me either. The people who also didn't believe were my father's children, and my father couldn't believe it. His children, they were either ungodly, unintelligent, inexperienced with this. They also came under this person's grooming and control, and believed, didn't see the two-facedness of this person, because in public they, if they were with my dad, they'd act like they, were taking care of my dad, helping my dad, and then behind the scenes they weren't doing that at all. They were abusive, and again, when the abuse became physical, my dad got really scared and upset, and he wanted help, and so I vowed to help him. I said, Dad, I'll help you every way I can. In fact, when I had gone back years earlier to this person who had me falsely arrested for this truck theft, I even asked the person again if they wanted to say they were sorry, and this person said, no, I'd do it again. That's, I'm going to do it again, and you still need to know I'm in control, and if I got to call the police on you, I will. And if they want to, they basically said if they want to file, if they need to file false charges and have me arrested, they're going to do it. So I said, well, Dad, and he said, well, Mark, my children, they're either ungodly. One only, they care about is money. The second one is a, lifelong lesbian. And when you're a lifelong lesbian and you lie about it and you have to conceal it for their lifestyle, you live your life in a lie. You're more prone to being, misled by another evil human being. You don't know truth from lie, and you're constantly having, living in a world of deception, and that's this person. And then another one is just another control freak. Again, didn't really grow up with a mother. The other one really was estranged from my dad to begin with. Another one just was it was never the least intelligent of all his children. And then they had a drinking problem, alcohol problem, and they, had a problem with a spouse, and they just weren't mentally really in charge of things. They had a lot of mental issues. Then another one, who was probably the best of all of them, but still, she just lived in her bubble. She used to call it her bubble, and she was all in, to her children, and didn't put my dad, didn't give my dad the attention and time he really deserved or needed. She did give him some more than the others. And then the other one was dealing with, a spouse of her own who apparently wasn't, I don't know what his story is, but apparently not the best spouse, and, was just wrapped up in her life with him. So my dad really felt he had no children except for me, none that truly loved him and didn't care about his, his money, and didn't, and the person, like I said, that all this time who was using and abusing him for money. My dad was heartbroken. He's like, geez, I thought this person really, loved me and cared about me, and he realized it's really just about the money. And, the light bulb came on, and then when the abuse became physical, and I tried to report it, nobody listened, nobody cared, nobody did anything, nobody believed. This person was always, disputing it, which, of course, they're not going to admit it. I mean, I talked to a local magistrate, the former local magistrate in the town of, in Rensselaer County, and they said that, Mark, they never admit it. I've been in the judge here for like 12 or 15 years, and they never admit it. They never say they're an abuser. You always have to lock them up or separate them from the home. And so I wrote a whole study on it. I've been studying abuse and cults for at least 30 years, so I studied it really in depth. I said, well, Dad, let's just, get you out of there. I mean, let's just, get you out of the living situation you're in, and let's just work it out. I mean, let's, we don't want to see anybody go to jail necessarily. I said, you know, we'll figure out the money. I always can make money. You have money. And he was begging me. He was crying. He's like, Mark, you know, you got to help me. You got to save my life. And I got hundreds of recordings of like that. Now, when my dad said, well, you know what, I want to like leave the situation I'm in. I won't say what situation. I won't say who. I'm not naming any names. When my dad wanted to do that, this person found out. So this person went back to the thing that they do. They filed a false police report saying I was a violent and dangerous threat to them and my own dad, and that I was only with my dad because I was using you know, I wanted money from him, and my dad didn't really have any money. I had more money at some point than my dad, but that's what this person said because that's what this person was doing. And they filed this protection order. Again, I'm like, protection from whom? I go, you know, my dad is being used and abused. I'm in a sense being used and abused. This person's making all the money. My dad just wants to leave. He just wants to enjoy his life. All my daddy ever wanted in life was to be alive and happy. We talk about heaven. He didn't really want. He loved God. He loved heaven. But he didn't really want to talk about it. All he wanted to talk about was being happy and alive. And he wanted to be with me more than anything. He said, we'll have fun. We do the same things. We're cut from the same cloth. We have the same likes. He knows I'm never going to hit him or hurt him. He knows I'm not with him just for money. He knows my love is true and that of a firstborn son who just adored and would do anything. I'd sacrifice my life for my daddy. I'm like, well, Dad, I'm going to try, but you know, they're going to try to throw me in jail. If I'm with you, they call the police. And here's the thing, even my dad's own children supported financially and in every possible way this person who was using and abusing my father instead of letting my father be free and be with me. And not only that, they, in a sense, condoned the behavior of what this person, the way they treated me, having me falsely arrested, filing a false protection order. I had 2 jobs. I waited 25 years to get with the Las Vegas Raiders, meeting the owner, Al Davis. And the other one was I worked on for 3 years, meeting the owner, Vince Viola of the Florida Panthers, working with their teams. And I didn't get either job. You know why? The first red flag the HR department checks is, do you have a protection order against you? Are you a criminal? And this person filed this false protection order full of lies. There was just nothing but lies in the whole thing. Doctor documents, fraudulent documents, just this person's evil opinion that I was only wanted to be with my dad for money. Really? That's why I was his son for 63 years? Because I just loved him for his money? Really? How ungodly and evil. So this person files this protection order, and the judge, I said, well, let me see if I can, you know, maybe represent myself. And this lawyer, you know, I got a lawyer, and the lawyer he was evil from the beginning too. Is it Skip? I was like, this lawyer named Skip. No disrespect to anybody named Skip, but, and then, you know, he'd say like, you know, why? I don't want to be your, you know, lawyer. I said, why? He says, because I looked online. You're worth like 18 on these net worth websites. There's like 2 of them online. One says I'm worth $14 million, and one says I'm worth $8 million. I'm like, are you kidding? I never had that much money ever in my life. I never had more than $800,000 in my life ever. This thing says I'm worth it. You can't believe that thing doesn't know that internet site. I'd send him information he needed. He's like, oh, I got the envelope, like, but there was nothing in it. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, it wasn't opened. So what, the Postal Service is opening my mail and gets it to the lawyer? Then I said, you know what, you gotta, you know, there's a conflict of interest here. This person who filed this protection order and the judge were at the same school together. The judge was attending there and this person was apparently working there. Isn't that a conflict of interest? He said, no, I don't want to file that. I don't want to say that. He didn't want to do anything that I suggested because he has to have a working relationship with this judge. You see, he has other clients, other, you know, defendants who, you know, are going to need his, you know, his counsel, and so he has to have this, you know, he's playing this working relationship with her. He doesn't want to do anything to offend this judge. And I knew this judge, Judge Elizabeth Walsh, this is the judge's name, in Rensselaer County, middle-aged, woke, Democrat, unattractive female. I said, I'm not going to win. I can't win in this court. No matter what happens, I can't. And I know I'm not going to win with a jury. I just don't come off well. You know, if you get anybody who's not like me, who's not like my dad, who's not intelligent or godly or intelligent or hardworking or passionate about the truth, because, you know, what wins in court? The person who's better liked. This person, this judge, more associated with the person who's called the petitioner who took out this order against me. The person who's got the better lawyer, this petitioner got a lawyer. Apparently the judge the county assigned this person, this petitioner, a lawyer. And this petitioner gets a court-appointed lawyer, and this petitioner at the time owns a car and an automobile and a home. My dad at the time of his death didn't own either. I haven't owned a car in 20 years, and I've never owned a home. And my dad, according to my dad, this person socked and stowed and hidden away $1 million of his. And this person is, going on vacations, and I'm battling in court. And yet this person gets a court-appointed lawyer. So I tried to tell my lawyer, but he didn't want to do anything. So, he didn't, and he was always, we never got, we were never on the same page. And he was, I just, talking to him was as bad as talking to the judge and being dragged in for these false charges. So anyway, I said, Daddy, I'm going to help you get away. I said, we'll have to battle. I have to battle through court. Apparently, this protection order was granted. And the reason it was granted is, again, it was full of lies. Said I was a violent, dangerous threat to this person who knew my dad, who I never threatened. And this person had me falsely arrested 4 times. I never threatened. I said, do you want to forgive? No, I'll do it again. Oh, just evil. And so, and I read what was in the order. It was disgusting. None of it was true. And I knew the court wasn't going to be on my side. This little Rensselaer County court where my father grew up. My father basically helped build Rensselaer County through his publishing empire, and they're kicking him out of his town. Nobody called him into court because, see, the order was filed without my dad's knowledge. This person who filed the order didn't tell my dad, because my dad would have said no. They certainly didn't tell me, because they were always just trying to get me arrested. See, if I didn't know there was an order and I broke it, I could be arrested, and that ended up happening, and I'll explain that. So after that, not only that, they didn't tell my dad. My dad didn't want it. Nothing in it was warranted. And so this person secretly took it out. Now, how did I find out? Well, because apparently the court had reached out to me to appear and go to court. And they said, this person's, needs a protection order, wants a protection order against you. And it didn't say anything about my dad. I'm like, my dad would never want that. And it didn't say my dad's name on the order. It just said this person's name, the petitioner. So I said, well, listen, can you, I'll come, I understand, but any day but Tuesday. Tuesday's my one day off. I work 96 hours a week. I want to run a worldwide nonprofit, basically. I'm considered, in many circles, a minister of reality TV. I mean, all I do is preach and help people, whether it's veterans, abuse victims, the homeless, critters, you name it. But I only get one day off, and that's Tuesday. So I asked them like 4 or 5 times, can you please schedule any day but Tuesday? So every time they scheduled it on a Tuesday. So finally I get a call, and the judge calls, and I did 3 episodes of this Dr. Phil show, which was a nightmare in itself, people lying about me on the show. I did the show on purpose knowing they were going to lie. I wasn't surprised by it. I mean, I could have said no to the show, but I promised to help these people. I promised to, preach and do the right thing. And Phil, he's not even a doctor. This guy, he's such a liar and evil. But anyway, I get death threats. I get scam and spam email all the time, catfished all the time. So I get a call, and this person says, this is Judge Elizabeth Walsh. I'm calling from Rensselaer, but I live in Troy, but the court is in Troy, but it's centered in Brunswick. It's on a Google phone of mine. The transcript says Brunswick, Troy, Rensselaer. I never heard of Brunswick. I've heard of Troy and Rensselaer. And the judge says, this is going to sound like it's a spam, it's coming from a spam or scam number, but it's not. How am I supposed to know that that's a real call? I didn't know. You're calling from a spam or scam number. You're a judge. I was told judges don't call clients directly or defendants directly, according to my lawyer. So I said, and I'd been fighting this thing in court, like the order was first filed in Rensselaer County, so I defended it there. Then they said, well, you got to go to Schenectady. That's where your father lives. And so I go to Schenectady. They said, no, you got to go back to Rensselaer. That took 6 months. Rensselaer says, nope, you got to go to Schenectady. It took me 2 years, 6 months each place, back and forth. Nobody did anything. I called the court. They'd give me misinformation. They'd say, oh, no, you didn't file that. You told me to file. No, that wasn't filed correctly. You got to file it this way. That's another 2 months. All the while, my dad is leaving me 700 messages crying. The last time I saw him in person, he cried. He was crying. Marcus, don't make me go back. Save me, help me. He's crying, my own daddy. Crying, begging. He's got a bloody nose. He's got broken ribs. But apparently he's just demented and has Alzheimer's, and according to the petitioner, he's lying. My dad's a liar. I'm a liar. The kids, his own children, believe this person before they believe their oldest brother and their daddy, who never lied to any of them. They think he's demented and Alzheimer's. They don't know what brainwashing is. They don't know what being, groomed is. They don't know what being gaslighted is. That ungodly, unintelligent, that evil-minded themselves. The girls needing all these girls being control freaks. The one son of his being estranged, and the other son worshiping the god of money more than anything. Says, "Oh yeah, I'll help you. I'll give you money," and the money goes right to this person, not to my dad. The person would call up and say, "You got to send your father money. Your father wants some money. Will you send it to me?" My father sends it to the person. My dad never gets the money. He's calling me up begging me for money. I'm giving my father all my money. I gave him 3 life savings I had. I had an amount in life savings. I gave it all to my dad. He never got it. I went through that. I worked again. I made another life savings, most I ever had. I gave it to my dad. 3 times I did that. My dad never got the money. He said, "Oh, I put it in my Bible," and this person came and took it the next day. I'd hide it here, and this person would, come up and say, "Oh, you better give me your money. Remember, you have Alzheimer's and dementia. You'll forget where it is. You better give it to me." He'd give it to her. He'd give it to this person. And then he'd be like, "I need money for an ice cream cone, or I want to get, go to the dollar store, buy a lottery ticket." This person wouldn't give him any of the money. They fought every Saturday. He fought every Saturday and Sunday with this person because he wanted to, I'll get to that. He wanted to do something and, play a football game or bet a football game or bet a horse race, the things he loved to do on weekends. This person disallowed that. So all the while, I'm going back and forth to court just to try to talk to my own daddy, because the court said you're not allowed to talk to your own daddy. He's 89 years old. He's going to be dead any day. And I'm not allowed to have a life with my own daddy? So my daddy's calling me up. He's begging for help. He's being, abused. I said, "I understand. He's in a cult. He can hardly figure out what, how that works." I mean, he didn't have dementia. He was brainwashed. He's like, there's a difference. I said, "Dad, there's a difference between, not knowing something and forgetting something." I mean, he's telling me stories. I took him on an all-expense-paid trip to Tampa to see his wealthy second son, who, didn't want to even really see him. Said, "Yeah, I'll help you guys." And then he reneged on that like he always does. And I'm like, "Well, we don't really want your help. We just wanted you to, just know what was going on, and you didn't have to offer any money or to pay any rent," which he did. But I thought that was gracious. But of course, it's just he reneges. He always does, and would rather spend money on horse hay and owning and buying horses and sending kids to Disney World than he would saving his life of his own father, and God forbid, help me from being homeless or needing legal resources. No, forget you. You're as bad as your father. Really? But this person is a saint, according to what my dad did to this poor person, how my dad mistreated this person. Really, this person made $1 million on my dad. This person never had to pay for anything since they knew my dad. This person had, jobs from my dad. This person, the only other job they had beside my dad was, apparently they were a receptionist, or not a receptionist, I won't say whether it's male or female, but worked at a church and doesn't, only worked there for a while. So they either quit on working for a church or were fired, for whatever reason. And then the other thing this person did was they worked for a person, and apparently, according to my dad, it was just a guise or a ruse for having a relationship with this person, a physical relationship with somebody else, a romantic relationship with this, with the person they were, this other person they were working with. It broke my dad's heart. My dad was, had feelings for this person, and thought this person really loved my dad, but no. So, I go to help my dad, and I've told this story before, and I arrange everything, and he needs a lawyer. He wants to talk about, perhaps getting divorced. He wants to enjoy his day at the races with me. He wants me to help him with a bank account because this person won't let him have any of his own money. He keeps taking money, and he has no money. I'm like, "Dad, well, I'll put on all the money I have, and it's yours if you need it." And he wanted to move in with me, so we had to meet with a couple landlords. So I spent $50 to have an Uber to meet him up at a bank in Saratoga. I go up there. He's freaking out at the bank because these bank tellers, 2 women, 2 bank executives, they don't want to help us. There's 15 minutes till the bank closes. I'm like, my father's in a rush. I'm in a rush. We want to get this done. I came in from the West Coast. I have 1 day to do this. Can we get this done? I've been working this for 2 years. They're rude and inconsiderate and unprofessional. Next thing you know, they're locking in the door to the bank and locking us out. My dad gets on the phone with this person who's setting up the whole thing. Apparently says, okay, now Mark's with his father. Now I'm going to call the police. And I'm going to, because, see, this person knew there was a protection order. I didn't know. My dad didn't know. Next thing you know, I'm arrested. I'm like, why? They said, well, because you violated a protection order to keep you from your own father. I go, what are you talking about? My dad doesn't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. But this person was always doing that. There was an occasion where I went to the racetrack, and this person dropped my dad off. The only person who knew I was going to the racetrack with my dad. Next thing I know, some guy comes up, sticks in, introduces, says, are you Mark DiBello? I said, yeah. Shoves an envelope under my arm. My name is spelled. I don't know what's in this envelope. I don't know this guy. He runs away. I didn't know. I guess apparently my lawyer at the time said, you should have opened that envelope. I go, why? Do you open up spam mail? Do you open up, like junk mail you get? Why would I open it? I don't know this guy. I don't know what this envelope is. It's misspelled. It could be a letter bomb. Could have, I don't know what it is. Why would I open this? But apparently I'm supposed to know when I'm being served. I don't get served subpoenas. If that's what it was. I still don't know what it was because I recorded myself throwing the thing away. But I'm like, Dad, the only person who knew that you were going to be with me was the person who dropped you off. This person who you know is hurting you and abusing you and alleging my father. And I have proof of it, so I don't know why I'm supposed to have to say alleging. But I'm like, and my father was upset too. He said, this person used me to set you up. I mean, this person never gives my father a ride. Not never, but, only gave my father a ride if it benefited them. But this person wasn't even going to give my father a ride to the track, but found out that, this was their chance to also, stalk me and have this envelope shoved under my arm. Apparently that was some legal document telling me not to stay away from my dad. Again. I'm like, how am I supposed to know that? I don't get served. I didn't know that's what that was. I'm obligated to open that. Every stranger hands me an envelope. Oh, God bless, I'm back. I will have to edit this just in 2 segments because there was a technical issue. I guess the storage was full. So I see that I've already recorded for an hour. So I'm going to try to get up to speed where I was and finish up this update. So again, on Saturday, March 30th, I didn't get a call. An ambulance was called to rush my father to the hospital. Again, I know he got in arguments a lot on Saturdays and Sundays. He was frail, 91 years old, but in good shape for his age. Always younger than his, health-wise. He didn't have any chronic health issues. He didn't have Alzheimer's. He didn't have dementia. He was, cultishly controlled and, groomed and brainwashed and gaslighted. He didn't smoke. He didn't drink. He didn't do drugs. He was never overweight. I know 91 is old. He had a new pacemaker just installed like 6 months earlier. But again, there's people I know that live into their late 90s, and I know my dad had years left in him. Nonetheless, an ambulance is called. He's rushed to the hospital. This person who had been using and abusing him was the only one who went with him. I don't get a call on Saturday night when he's in the hospital. Sunday morning, this person tries calling me. I immediately told them to go to hell and hang up because I always have tried to avoid this person. I've seen him maybe 5 times in person in 10 years, and every time I see them, they're either hurting my father or hurting me or doing something to, use and abuse him or me directly or indirectly, or taking his money or costing me money, or just being evil or saying evil things or doing evil things or criminal things even. But, that's why I just try to avoid him. But I then get a call from this highly irreverent and disrespectful daughter of his, who immediately starts berating me as soon as she gets on the phone and, wants me to talk to my dad on his deathbed. But I told her to go to hell and hang up on her because that's how you want to greet somebody you haven't talked to in years. When the person they live for, my daddy, I live my life for, I love more than anything on this earth, and more than myself, and don't want to exist really without him. And that's how you open up a phone call. But like I said, this lifelong lying lesbian can't be trusted. And I just gave this person a whole archive of family photos, not even a thank you, nothing. Didn't record them for me. I don't have record of them. If I do get record of them, I got to pay $1,500 or $1,200 for a broken hard drive that these are on. Same thing with articles of my playing days, and that with my father's second-born son and even third and last-born son, but nothing from them. Not even a thank you, no compensation, nothing. Just nothing but irreverence and disrespect the way they gave my daddy in his dying days. And then I do finally get a call from this one daughter who is the best of all of them, but still finally calls me really on a Sunday afternoon about 24 hours after my daddy's on his deathbed to put a phone up to his ear and say, your father's dying, you might, you want to talk to him? Really? I prayed with my dad every day at the end of every conversation we ever had, as if it were going to be our last. All he wanted to do was be happy and alive and be with me, just as I wanted to be with him. And these are the phone calls I have to get. I'm not allowed to talk to my daddy, to be arrested if I talk to my daddy, because one greedy human being who used and abused him wanted to make sure that they were going to profit from him, from his death. My daddy kept leaving me a message. Don't let this person get anything. Change my will. Do something. Don't let this person get anything. I want a jukebox and a slot machine that my father were family heirlooms to him. He's like, I got storage units. I did when he said this, and we weren't able to get him out of the place, so I never got control of him. I paid for these storage units for months out of my own pocket. And now my daddy's dying, and not that I care about the material things, but these were memorabilia to him. So I get these calls, and my daddy's dying. I don't even get to talk to him. He's like in a drugged up state, dying from some unknown illness. Within 24 hours after being with this person who could easily have punched him and had hit him before, and is bigger and heavier than my dad, and got in fights with my dad and knocked my dad down and broke his ribs, and nobody's going to know what happened. Nobody was there. But I am quite certain I got a death certificate. I had to pay $25 to hear how my daddy died. Because after he dies, I immediately try to get on a plane. I'm not told when there's a wake or a funeral. I hear nothing. I got to look it up on the internet. I go there expecting to go to my daddy's funeral. I'm greeted by a cousin who apparently I thought was going to come and pray with me or help me. But no, he's come to warn me that if I go to the funeral, I'm going to be arrested. Really? A cop shows up. Says he's doing me a favor. He's protecting me. Really? My daddy's laying in a church, dead in a casket. And I'm told by this cop that if I go, I'm going to be arrested. He's doing me a favor. This funeral director tells me the family is allowing me to visit my dad alone before the funeral starts for 15 minutes, and then I got to get out of there. The family? What am I? I'm his family. I'm his firstborn son. If I don't come out right, no thanks to my own, when I'm born, there's not 7 others to follow after me. Like the youngest one, the runt in the litter, was born with handicaps, so there were no children thereafter. I'm my father's firstborn son. I loved him more than anybody on earth. He named me after himself. I'm told by this petitioner person, I'm stealing his identity. That's part of this protection order. I'm stealing his identity. I'm told I'm harassing her and them. Sorry, I'm harassing them. You know why? I'm harassing them because my father begs me to go on social media and to get him help, to tell the truth, to tell his story, to not let her get away with it, to tell my story. I report on it. My First Amendment right, I report on it. I can't get the police to follow up. I can't get any agencies to follow up. So I'm begging people online to help. But that's considered harassment. I'm recording my life, the victimization of my daddy and me, my First Amendment right to tell the story. But that's harassment. I beg people to do something. I beg to get an autopsy. I call investigators. Nobody returns my call. Nobody did. 2 months before my daddy died. Nobody believed and listened. I send in a police report. I'm told that's illegal. That's harassment, to send in a police report. I'm told I'm not supposed to say anything negative or disparaging about this person. Really? I can't even report them doing crimes, abusing and hurting my dad and me, lying, fraudulent things, blasphemous things, slanderous, libelous things. I'm not allowed to write about that or report that. I'm harassing this person, this corrupt, evil, wicked judge. I guess, I don't know, maybe am I allowed to even criticize them? I'm even told I can't have anything to do with my dad's voice being posted online. That's wrong. My own dad crying out, him wanting his voice recorded. That's supposedly not allowed. What kind of country do we live in? This isn't freedom. This isn't democracy. This isn't First Amendment freedom of speech. This isn't protecting veterans and the elderly and abuse victims. This is criminal against me, against my dad. And I got to go to this funeral for 15 minutes. I'm disallowed. I'm harassed the rest of the day, 3 times stopped by police for simply looking like a vagrant traveling through town. I spent $500 on a ticket I had to spend. To go there to be told I'm not allowed to go to my own daddy's funeral, his burial. I'm in a funeral. I'm in a cemetery. I had to walk to a cemetery. I'm sitting alone at a memorial stone, and I got to see my daddy's funeral procession ride by, and I'm not allowed to be there? I'm not allowed to represent him or give tribute to him or memory to him? I stood there saluting on my own in a cemetery, and a procession of cars is driving by my poor daddy, crying out all he wants to do is be alive and be free. The abuse he and I had to suffer. And then I get dragged into court after this. I got to go to his burial I got to go to his plot when he's gone, him and my mom on my own. Plot strewn all over. I'm told that this petitioner has control over the burial. Then I find out from the directors of the funeral, the cemetery and the archdiocese, I could barely get answers out of them. Am I allowed to even be buried next to my mom and dad? What's in his will? He had no money anyway, but what were his final wishes? Any final words about here? Nothing about a will. Nothing to this day about a will. The funeral director, this woman, my father wanted to be buried at DeVito Salvatore with DeVito Salvatore Funeral Home, who he arranged with all his brothers and sisters from his hometown of McAdenville. Next thing you know, some young woman is involved from Lyons, where my mom was buried, and says, Dad. She's calling my father Dad. He's not your father. He's not your dad. What, do you think you're going to lie to me? If that's your professionalism, what you're supposed to say to the grieving, to the offspring who are left, that you call them dad, that's supposed to comfort them? It's a lie. I don't know. I never lied with my dad. I never lied to my dad. I never did anything to hurt my dad in 30 years. But all these people, they deceive, they destroy, and they lead to his death. Every one of them has blood on their hands. And I'm told I'm going to be thrown in jail because I broke a protection order and I'm harassing this person, this petitioner. The family, these evil-minded children of his that my father was displeased with to the day he died. None of them honored him the way they were supposed to. None of them revered and respected him. And if they don't him, you think they're going to think that way of his eldest son? I'm more godly. My dad and I were more godly, more intelligent, more spiritual, had more love between he and I than any of them will ever have with him. He got a death sentence. I've given a life sentence. I'm dragged into court after that, told I broke the law. If I talk to my dad, I'm harassing somebody by trying to report on his being, quite frankly, truthfully, perhaps being allegedly, I guess, I don't know who's going to say allegedly. I guess I got to say it. Slain. My dad, fearful for his life, he was going to be killed. Fearfully, somebody was going to beat him up and hurt him. No investigation, nothing done. Nobody. I called 6 times. Maybe at least once a week begging, can somebody help me? Can somebody do an investigation? Will somebody look into this? Nothing. Not even a callback. Nothing. Nothing from anybody. No coroner, no autopsy, no nothing. No investigation, no will. I get the death certificate. I don't even know the cause of death. All I know is on the death certificate, it says Alzheimer's. My father never had Alzheimer's. At the end, it says Alzheimer's. Of course, the person who took him to the hospital is going to say that. They always say that. And this female young doctor, I saw some young 28-year-old doctor attended to my dad. Of course, she's going to believe the person that drops him off. And then these supposed daughters of his. And yes, now you see some of my anger. But not once did I threaten anybody to this day. So to wrap up, I guess, and however quickly I can bring this to a close, I'm again dragged into court, having to go to trial supposedly on August 19th this past. I think it was August 19th. All these times after, even through the 2 or 3 years my dad suffered and was essentially crucified. I'm dragged in on his birthday, the date of my mom's birthday, my birthday. All these significant dates seem to be these dates. The date my mom died. All these dates I'm dragged into court. So August 19th, apparently that's around the time I think that my dad had, made somehow, without saying too much, because again, I'm told I'm not supposed to say anything negative or disparaging or even mention this person's name. I'm harassing them. They have complete, I guess, immunity from the government to do whatever the hell they want to anybody, including me. That's okay. But if I defend myself, like my poor dad probably tried to defend himself, I'm going to be threatened with thrown in jail. I'm going to be jailed. So I can't I'm stuck in Dallas, Texas, trying to get back for this virtual court proceeding where I'm apparently going to trial and told I can't post any social media. No voice of my dad crying. Nothing negative or disparaging about this one person, this one petitioner who has a home, got a home completely paid for in cash from being with my father, knowing my father, a car, neither of which, like I said at the opening, my father and I died with. My father died. He didn't have a car. He didn't even have a home. He was homeless, basically. He had to bow down and kowtow to this person, or this person would either, threaten him with, meal deprival, or, would maybe give him a reward of a cookie if he was a good boy. Talk to him using F words, abusive language, sitting down, threatening him. I heard it. I heard cult-like language like I never heard before. 6 calls, some of them lasting a half an hour, things I can't even repeat here. Some I have recorded. I actually recorded this person yelling at my father. You're so goddamn cheap, you don't contribute for anything. Where's your money? Where's your bank account? Just a year or two before he died, my father gave this person all his money. He's like, what do you want from me? My skin? My dad said. I even wrote the transcript. It's like, you got everything already. You do everything. You go everywhere. I don't do anything. All he does is sit there and rot. And then she's out. This person, I'm sorry, I'm not saying who or what gender. They're out, according to my father, having relations with all sorts of the opposite sex. Spending, my father's money, my money, all my money I sent to my dad he never got. And then this person says, I'm a threat. And like I said, the court, the government, the funeral home, I'm basically mocked and laughed out of his burial. So then I'm supposed to go to court. Like I said, August 19th, I get stuck in Dallas, Texas. I sent the court information showing that. I heard nothing back from them. I was supposed to now, with basically no money, not enough to afford counsel. I applied for a public defender the day after the previous trial, which was, 3 months before August 19th or so. I don't hear anything from the court, whether I was, successfully, at filling out that form or rejected from getting counsel. So I have no lawyer, and I'm supposed to appear in court virtually August 19th. I finally come back, the morning of the 19th, I go back. I go to the police station to try to get some help, to see what's going on, try to get something done. I don't know I doubt anything will get done. They said, we'll send the report to this town where this person lives, where my father used to live, and maybe they'll do something, but I don't think they'll do anything. Nobody ever did. And I don't know what's going on with court. I don't know if there's a warrant against me. I don't know. I don't know whether I was found guilty or not guilty. I don't know what's going on. But that's not surprising. The court always was giving me misinformation. They don't return emails. Judge says you got email. I sent the email. I didn't hear anything from anybody. I can't watch it. I can't watch any programming, any TV with a jail. I've never been this fearful in my life. I'm worried they're going to knock down the door and arrest me and shoot me. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't go out in public. I don't know who to talk to. I don't know who's going to betray me next. I can't sleep. I have nightmares. I can't eat sometimes. I can't even think about how angry this makes me that my daddy was hurt, but I can't do it. What am I going to do? I don't kill people. I don't threaten to kill people. I don't hurt people. I don't get justice. I'm not trying to be vengeful. I want my daddy to rest in peace, and I want to live in peace. He was given a death sentence, and I'm given a life sentence. I go and try to tell somebody, they said, oh, you can't stop. You got to stop thinking about this. It's going to make you, mentally ill. This person was supposed to help. And this person, she knows who she is. She's supposed to help and protect my father's children. Really? I got to stop thinking about it? All I've done is try to stop thinking about it. I want to be, my daddy is gone. I don't have any other reason to want to live other than one, against my God, to kill myself. I certainly can't kill other people. Two is I'm my daddy's representation left here on earth. I got to try to stay alive to keep my daddy's memory alive, to get justice served, or at least get the truth be told, or be left alone, or live in peace, or let me memorialize my daddy online in peace, or let his voice or his wish to have his story told and the truth be told. To document my own life, my own being victimized. What this corrupt and evil court system and these betrayers, all his children betrayers, one helped a little bit. All the other ones betrayers. Family members, his in-laws, cousins, people he's helped from my mother's side of the family. Cast out, ostracized, told I could, basically not disallowed from attending a family reunion. I was going to dispense items to these people, and out of the goodness of my dad, to my heart, things that he would want them to have. But you know what? I can't even go to there. I get mocked and reprimanded and threatened that somehow I'm, a bad influence on that event by some wicked, evil, nasty people who, in the name of my beautiful grandmother, Frances, who loved me, who I wouldn't defame, or my mommy. I'm going there to try to tell the truth, or they're upset because I went to go, I wanted to perhaps invite my dad, take my dad, get help, but no, I'm disallowed from that. Everybody betrayed my daddy one way or another. And no, forget the government, forget law enforcement, forget the justice system. Of course, this petitioner, they got everything they wanted, all the money. My father kept reporting that even when this person was with their first spouse, they took out excess life insurance policies. The insurance agent even said to them, you're a young couple. The person, not he or she, I'm not saying, this one spouse was only like 28 or 29, about the same age they met my father. Why are you taking out so many extra insurance policies? It's not illegal, but the insurance person was like, you're a young couple. Next thing you know, within 4 months, that man, that person's spouse is dead. And again, cleared the path to get to my father. And my father saying, Aurelius, this person is taking out multiple life insurance policies. And I'll die the day I become more valuable when I'm dead than when I'm alive. All my father subsisted on was his Social Security check, and he couldn't even get that. And I'm accused of fraudulently trying to steal his Social Security check? Really? Identity theft? I called the police. They told me there's a report on me for identity theft. My father called me begging me, Marcus, I don't get my Social Security check. Can you call the Social Security department? You and I actually even have the same name. Can you just call and find out and get my check sent to me, whether it's delivered, direct deposited into the bank, or I could see the check in the mail? I did that about 4 or 5 times. He begged me, because every time I get it sent to him in the mail, he wouldn't see it. Every time I get sent to him in direct deposit, this person would come and take it out of his own bank account. He wouldn't get it that way either. I said, Dad, it's not going to work. Wherever I send it, you don't get it. Or, I mean, make sure the government sends it, you don't get it. I'm not going to steal from the government. I get Social Security. You think I'm going to jeopardize that? I'm not a criminal. I'm not a thief. I'm not a liar. I'm not a fraudster. I'm not going to steal my own daddy's identity. He gave me his name, Mark Anthony DiBello, from the day I was born. That's not stealing his identity. He called me begging, crying. I don't even have money to buy $5 for an ice cream sandwich or a lottery ticket. And I get a police report that I'm stealing my own father's identity. Really? I didn't profit from his death. I didn't see anything about a will. I don't care about the money. Never did. He said he wanted me to have things. He even gave me a list of possessions. He wrote it. He signed it. I put it on video about 2 years before his death, superseding his will. Apparently that doesn't count in court, or nobody cares. Nobody wants to do anything about it. He said to me, whatever happens, I want you to get these belongings, not this person who's using and abusing me. Mark, at least you get this slot machine and jukebox. But again, nothing, no will, no nothing. I can't even go to the funeral. I have these beautiful things prepared. I'll show you one here. I had this beautiful box to dispense at his funeral. Recordings and videos of him. He even got to see these on these beautiful discs, whole bunch of them, to dispense to people that he loved and cared about at his funeral. Look at, like 50 of them. No, I got them here because I'm disallowed from going to the funeral. I get 2 pieces of photocopied paper of some old photographs. That's all I get, like 2 pieces. Somebody leaves me somehow or another, Xerox copies, 2 or 3. Sorry for moving the camera. 2 or 3 of some old pictures. Not even the original pictures. That's all I get from 63 years of being my father's son, 91 years of his life. By the family? A cult family, if anything, in this petitioner. Over $1 million, my father said, stowed away. Multiple insurance policies, life insurance policies. I got to read his obituaries from the funeral home. His last name is not spelled properly. It's with a lowercase b. The same way this person who took me to court misspells his name. I'm 5 years old. I write a Father's Day card to my daddy. I know how to spell my father's last name, his surname, my birth name, DiBello, D, small I, capital B, boy, D, small I, capital B, boy, E-L-L-O. The way I was taught from 5 years old, with pride and respect and reverence for his daddy and his mommy. Even his mommy's name is misspelled in the funeral posting, in the obituary. His mommy's maiden name. His father's first name, Raphael, misspelled. My daddy's last name. By this petitioner, the person who took me to court, this person who was with him, knew him for 30 years. I'm not saying the relationship, I'm not saying the name, and I'm not saying the gender, to keep with this court edict the last time I was dragged into there. His own children. The devoted person. This person was so devoted. Misspelling names. Poppy. That wasn't my father's only nickname. Poppy, because you called him that. He goes to Vegas for quick hits. Like he's a drug addict. They write that stuff about my daddy? What is wrong with them? Perfectly soon I'll put up his real obituary, the one he read that he wanted put up. That file that I sent him had a video. You can find them on my YouTube page. Honoring and memorializing my daddy. But I'm even told, I guess, I don't know if I'm supposed to take those down or not. I'm not. They're honoring my daddy. My eulogy, apparently I'm not allowed to, if I say anything negative or disparaging about the person who quite likely has blood on their hands from the last day my daddy was alive. Allegedly. I'm saying allegedly. I don't know what happened. Of course I don't know. I wasn't there. But boy, the evidence sure points to it. And I'm the one who's being dragged into court. And now again, I can't sleep, I can't eat. It's like I'm in prison. Just thinking about that, I'm going to be imprisoned. Or that I've been, like I said, emotionally imprisoned. Physically, mentally, spiritually imprisoned by this. The devil controlling the mind of this person honoring and serving the Satan, the devil, not my daddy, not God, not my daddy, and certainly not me. Would rather see me dead, in jail and dead. And then all his betrayers and all their supporters, they can all go to hell, the spirit within them. His one son, multi-millionaire, no help, nothing, no support. In fact, quite the opposite. You can be homeless, you can be in jail. I'm not going to help. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to keep supporting the person who was using and abusing your own father. Such irreverence and disrespect. Not only, forget me, my daddy. This person wouldn't be alive. None of these children of my daddy's would be alive if it wasn't for my daddy. Not one of them. They don't exist. Not their offspring, nothing. And then his in-laws, he gave virtually any one of them that needed anything financially or a job, he did for them. He married my mother, an amazingly perfect union, all her brothers and sisters, of which there's only 2 left. Now, one is very godly, didn't know the whole story. One knew the story and sometimes was there and helpful and other times not. I don't know who's going to watch this or listen to this. I put this out for recording. I don't know how I got in this agitated state after trying to be calm through the first part of the recording. But again, I want to give a life update, just like I do, to honor God and preach. 2, to honor the memory now of my daddy and my mommy on this remembrance, tragic, sad remembrance of the day she passed, October 17, and to document my own life when my day comes, whether I'm imprisoned and it happens or whether I'm supposedly free, quote unquote free, even though still under this oppression. The day I pass, I want the story, the truth to be told. With God as my witness, with all the evidence a human being could possibly have, and when you can put me on a lie detector. Truth, not lies. Life, the God of love, life, joy, and peace is the God I serve, the God my daddy served, the God that he wanted to be with me until his dying day. And now I have no mom and no dad. That's all I have to say for now. That's all I have to say. Every one of you watching, perhaps everyone in some way, owes my dad and me an apology. But say it to God above. It's he who needs to forgive you for what you've all did to him in neglecting him and leaving him alone. Maybe one person, a friend that he knew, was helpful. I'll just say it's a male. I thought this man was helping me some, but I don't know. I don't hear from this man. I don't know what's the story. I know he honored my dad more than he honored me, and that's okay. My dad and my mom before him, they're my life. Do you understand? I'm their firstborn son. I'm stretching Aurelius. I'm stretching Aurelius. And they were my life. God forgive you. You could all go to hell. All you unapologetic evil betrayers. You could all go to hell, your spirits. I love my mom and dad. I love my mom and